So a few people have messaged me asking me about what I use for drums and percussion, and I thought it would be easier just to make a quick video that explains what I'm doing. So for the longest time I had just the TR-8 as a drum machine, and I wanted to expand my setup. I looked at nearly every drum machine ever made and went round in circles for months without being able to work out what to buy next. After a while I started to ask myself what it was I really wanted to get out of hardware and what I wanted to get out of a drum machine. I spent a lot of time looking at these high-end drum machines, but what I really wanted was something gritty, something that could sound nasty, out of sync, something that would help my track sound less like a computer and more like a living thing. So in my mind, if I wanted something to be precise and clean, I could just use the thousands of options in the box. I've always said Ableton is the greatest sampler ever made, but I was spending a lot of time trying to dirty up my drums in the box to make them sound more distorted and full of character. So with that in mind, I decided to build the most budget hardware drum setup possible. First I went for the Arturia Drum Brute. This thing cost me £200 second hand. Think about that, a fully analog drum machine with high pass or low pass filter, an amazing sequencer and individual outs for £200. That's insane value. I'm 100% sure the reason why there are so many of these selling for such a low price on eBay is because people just don't understand this sort of thing, and they maybe buy it as their first drum machine, turn it on and immediately are underwhelmed. It sounds pretty dry. A lot of the sounds don't sound great on their own, but it's an analog drum machine. They're all kind of like that. The reason they don't sound like the sounds you hear in finished tracks is because by their very nature they sound dry and need processing. They need effects to be driven hard, delay, reverb, etc. And guess what? It's got individual outs, so you can process all the sounds either collectively or individually. So bad luck for everyone that sold one, but good luck for good old Muchacho, because as you will see, I'm processing it with a lot of budget effects. So in the spirit of trying to build this all as cheaply as possible, I'm running both the TR-8 and the Drum Brute through this incredibly cheap Behringer analog mixer. This thing has 12 inputs, so that's 4 mono and 4 stereo channels with effects sends. This cost me £50 brand new. I have spent more than that on a bottle of wine. It was delicious though, but this thing lets me EQ, pan and send all the sounds to my effects pedals. Oh, and just because it's cheap doesn't mean it sounds bad. When I drive it a little too hard and it starts to clip, it can actually sound pretty good in a cheap and nasty kind of way, which is exactly what I'm going for. So I've got the TR-8 on its own channel, the Drum Brute on its own channel, both with EQ, and I've got individual elements from the Drum Brute like hats, toms, snare, etc. on their own channels. What I can then do is send each channel to my super budget guitar pedal effects chain. Before the pedals though, I have this compressor from Clark Technic, the 76KT, which as you probably already know is the 1176 clone. So the 1176 is legendary and has probably been used on every hit record ever. It has a ridiculously fast attack time and really shines on things like vocals and drums. So I've got my drums running through this, and I can use it to sculpt the sound further with its extreme settings. You can completely obliterate the transients with its fast attack, or give huge amounts of overall gain or saturation across anything you run through it. Best of all, this cost me about £180 brand new. So you're getting a legendary compressor that's specifically great at compressing drums for about the same price as it costs to fill up your car with petrol 2 times. So buy one of these and get walking for a month. Okay, so on to the pedals. I had to be strict and not spend too much cash on these. There are some incredible effects pedals out there, but they're very expensive and very clean sounding. I limited myself to £30 per pedal and went for 1 phaser, 1 flanger, 1 delay and 1 reverb. These 4 seemed like the most sensible effects that I'd actually use. I can't see myself using a tremolo or fuzz pedal on drums, but you never know. Most of these cost about £20. The phaser, flanger and reverb were new, the delay was from eBay. All of them get used. My favourite is probably the Jet Convolution flanger, which might have been about £20 new from Amazon. It sounds amazing. The one I use least is definitely the overdrive, that's why I've unplugged it, but it can be cool for smashing drums. So what does it all sound like?